brothers.
Well, I get it. I'm not judging. I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just saying.
So I got a question. Artificial intelligence.
It's kind of like an oxymoron. Jumbo shrimp.
That's what they call me.
Artificial intelligence.
Oxymoron.
An oxied up moron. Got it. Okay. What about it?
What's your take on it? Because it's like I heard on the news the other day they were talking about, what's the guy that was teamed up with Elon Musk?
The people that OpenAI that made ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Well,
and they're talking.
There's 5 other.
And what I heard is that they're talking about they're gonna, once they get up and running, they're not gonna have the whole topic is like no health insurance, no retirements, because they're not gonna need any people. Because because there's no software updates and none of that.
When's the last time you saw an AI pick up a box?
I've never seen one.
Right. Without a robot, without some kind of manipulation, there's no way for an AI to actually actuate anything other than code.
But here they're talking about once they do the initial setup, that this is my understanding, is once everything's set up, that this artificial intelligence can learn from there on out. So there won't be a software update that needs to be programmed because it's constantly.
It'll write its own.
Exactly.
Well, not to get all Space Odyssey 2001 on your.
Get it.
The way the current AIs are running now, there's 2 terms that you have to be aware of: machine learning and artificial intelligence. They are not mutually inclusive. Machine learning means you can take a piece of equipment and teach it to do things based on a signature.
Right.
Don't do this. Please do this. If you see this,
like a CNC machine, it's going to
don't hurt humans.
Yeah, the Asimov's 3 laws.
This is your 3 moves, and you cut and you do whatever.
AI is not necessarily designed to do that, because machine learning is designed to give a skill to a piece of equipment, whether it's physical or logical. Logical meaning something in the cloud or somebody's virtual machine, as opposed to a physical piece of hardware like a firewall made by somebody. AI, on the other hand, has got a bunch of different facets to it. You can use AI for the sake of AI. You make this learning machine, and I'm using the machine in the strictest sense of the word machine, not internal combustion, but it's like the paradigm between a machine and an engine.
Correct.
So in this case, it's on the machine side. So you give it rules. You can't leave it open. It can't be broad. You have a very narrow container, and that narrow container contains the positive and negative rule sets for any chunk of data that you want it to parse, or not parse, that's not the right word. You want it to work with, so when you ask it a question, data is just data. So like a nail is a noun. A nail is made out of iron and steel and blah, blah, blah. That's the data that makes up the composite noun nail. So you ask you ask the AI, how do I build a house without nails? Well, you can't do that because nails are a fastener, or nails are this, or nails are that. So when it comes to the internet, the things that AI is going to do is it can work like a giant meta search engine, which means it's a search engine for search engines.
Yeah.
It takes and catalogs all the stuff it sees. It goes to Google and DuckDuckGo and all this stuff and asks them all those questions. Then it goes to places like Reddit and a few of the others and asks for questions. But it has to have a bullshit meter to say, I found this information, what of it is real and what of it is not. Because if it goes to Babylon Bee, that's a parody site.
Mm-hmm.
So you get bullshit answers. But if it goes to Webster's Dictionary, that's a trusted, vetted, other than the fact that lately it's got strange words in it now. But, you see what I mean from the general
Yeah.
So here,
But
AI can build something like what I do with AI is I will tell it the programming language to use. I will tell it what I want it to achieve, and I will tell it the duration I want it to do that, and it'll write me a script that I don't have to write. So I've saved 4 hours in writing a script, coming up with all kinds of craziness to go and do stuff.
so my thing, when I was listening to, I was on WOAI and I was listening to the Bucks Sexton show, and they were talking about this, and I didn't know anything about it other than the Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk. I don't know if you've seen it, but he talks about this.
Chat
about-
GPT
about,
specifically.
about putting an AI chip in people. You know,
Yeah,
there's this whole thing about it, and I was like,
It's transhumanism.
yeah. So, but when they were on the Buck Sexton show, they were talking about, I don't know when it was done, but there was 2 robots had the AI in it, and they communicated with each other, and it got to the point where they had to pull the plug because these 2 were communicating, and they were constantly
They figured each other.
They figured it out, and they created a new language, and nobody understood it, so they had to pull the plug on the
Well,
whole
they
thing.
used-
And it's like that's the shit we see on
was
movies.
Google-
I watched that.
It was Google
Did you?
and Alexa.
Oh,
And he got Googled, "Hey Google," for anybody that has a Android device. I just set it off. My apologies. But you can get Google to talk to Alexa, and those 2 artificial intelligences can actually figure out how to talk to each other and stuff, and they'll start a conversation.
yeah.
Well, the thing that I saw was 2 actual robots with AI, and
Well, AI is a generic term, but go ahead. I'm going to be picky about it because they're
you poo-pooing your...
digital communications. Go ahead.
anyway, I thought it was very
Digital
painful watching it because there was an individual in between, a human in between, that's having to instigate the conversation and initiate conversation so that these 2, robots were able to engage in dialogue together. It took an outside force. But
Yeah, but once that outside force pushed that ball down the hill, then
yeah, I didn't see it after that because it was too painful to watch. So I stopped watching. So maybe something actually did happen after that.
I think the whole part of it that was about the whole AI thing is that once they hire employees, they get it done, they get it set up, they get it up and running, and once this artificial intelligence actually does its education and learns from everybody else and all that shit, that they don't need to do anything anymore.
Well, there's
Other than one
but
person
the
making
thing
all the
that
fucking
makes
money.
me really crack up is the AI generated Seinfeld parodies episode stuff that they've got going on out there. Have you heard about that?
They claimed it was anti-Semitic and
They
misogynistic.
had one thing that it generated where whatever the Seinfeld character's name is on stage talking about transgenderism and gays
Right.
and all of these really offensive terms, but the AI generated it itself. That's where it went to. That's where the AI went to.
based on the rules that it was given. And
Based on the rules
one of the
it was
rules
given.
that it doesn't understand how to operate in is context. Those are all jokes. And a joke not necessarily funny unless it has a context to pull from. AI doesn't do context unless you really teach it how to understand the context of the, say it's an N-word, N-bomb joke, and you tell it to a bunch of non-N-bomb people. It's going to have a different effect. Its context is different than if it was with a bunch of, so you have to teach, and humor is very subjective. So the latest rhubarb in the AI world was Google's new artificial intelligence called Bard, or they're calling it Bard, B-A-R-D. And it went up against ChatGPT, and it lost. And it lost in a way that it impacted Google monetarily. Their stock dipped. And that was just because Bard wasn't as mature, didn't have the right back-end rules to answer the questions that it was asked in a way that would be considered correct or incorrect. So ChatGPT went to version 3, was trained, and it gets to a point where it's not this Skynet becoming self-aware stuff. It's you teach it up to a certain point, and then you have to allow it to learn the responses on its own based on two-way input. So you ask it a question, and it gave you an answer, and you thought the answer sucked. Well, it's your responsibility to tell it that answer sucked so it doesn't do it again. So it learns from that. I won't give him that sucky answer. I'll refrain. God dang it. I just lost my train of thought.
So is it possible that this, in terms of the AI, you see it on the movies and it's like they can just create their own behavior and do their own thing? Is that a reality?
No.
And if it is, it's like,
you're basing on the fact that an AI
think
can
about
have
it.
feelings.
I mean, if that was actually let loose, I mean, it would be
Terminator.
Yeah.
I think Skynet's possible. I don't think it's our level. At the level that we're at right now, writing that kind code that would be that complex to be able to replace a neural network with code bytes, with little tiny little pieces of assembly code or whatever, to actually understand that it got its feelings hurt or it didn't get its feelings hurt, or that it was rude or that it wasn't rude, that kind of stuff takes too much code. So all that's being done is you got the answer right, you got the answer wrong. Here's the amount of wrongness you got versus the amount of rightness. So can it fly an airplane? They've been doing fly-by-wire for how many years? Even helicopters?
But you still have to have a
You have
human
to
that's
have a
actually
human
running.
being. That's right.
So-
So we're not at a level where we could let this code go and it wouldn't. If they were to just let these AIs go by themselves right now, it wouldn't work out. It wouldn't end well.
It wouldn't last.
No, it'd be a non-starter.
Okay. Well, and I guess in the end, it really doesn't pose that much of a threat unless it was just it's programmed to do one thing and one thing only.
Unless you told it to run the transportation system. So if you gave the AI, you're now in charge of the traffic lights, and the AI all of a sudden got a wild hair up its ass or decided it wanted to play a joke, air quotes, joke, and it turns all the lights green on one street and turned all the rest of them red, and they went, ha, ha, ha. To what end, you know? So which is a higher likelihood than it would be the Skynet option. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
you didn't have one. Mock me.
I
I know when I've been mocked.
No. I'm serious. It wasn't.
He's mocking me. He's a mocker.
I am.
No, it's
I just have
This is like you talking about this is like me talking about alcohol.
Yeah, there's a certain similarity to that. Yeah. And we both think we're pretentious cunts full of shit when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
just saying.
Yeah.
It's not hurtful. It's just
It's not hurtful at all. I think it's hilarious.
Well,
you'd call me out just like I'm going to call you out.
right.
You're
I know I'm
knowledgeable
full of
about it.
I know I'm full of shit. It just happens to be what I'm playing with right now. But my concern is anything that you can get AI to build,
Yeah.
it doesn't know. It doesn't have the inherent right from wrong. All it knows is that it can do something. Can you write malware? What is malware? Malware is designated as anathema to normal functions of computers. It's bad.
Malicious software.
But how do you quantitate bad to an artificial intelligence? You can tell it, okay, the Joker.
You got to have parameters.
Right.
it.
You have to have rules. So the same rules that you teach it
So if
for
it's malicious
humor,
intent, then it's basically programmed by a human.
well, it depends on how naive or gullible. And yeah, the more humans involved, the worse it gets.
It can't initiate its own intent. That's the thing.
It can't start stuff by its own. So there has to be somebody give it stimulus to do something.
Yeah, we got to put it in
So
motion.
they can, if you know how to ask the right question, if you know how to, it's the Jeopardy paradigm. Well, I'm sorry, that's not in the form of a question. So you have to formulate the question in the right way to bend the rules, to jailbreak the answer, to get what you actually want, which is what hackers are doing to generate malware code from ChatGPT. They're saving themselves weeks of code writing by asking a simple 15-second question. And then ChatGPT, or the AI that they're using, writes them whatever code that they want to write. And then they validate it, and then they use it. So you could do this. What? I'm just saying. Not that I'm okay.
No. That's,
Allegedly, not that I've ever done this. I'm just saying it's possible if you do it the right way. Conversely, you could write a firewall script or coerce it into writing. You wouldn't even have to coerce it because the firewall script's within the parameters. Write a firewall script to completely interdict the malware script you just wrote. So you can have fun with it all day long and burn up a lot of bandwidth.
Wow. Well,
Sorry. You
I
Ask
pulled
a question.
I pulled
you
a,
opened up Pandora's box.
yeah, I know. I'll think better next time. But food's here.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna call
Oh, and with that,
we're gonna call it a day.
Reed Brothers.